I've got a ton of travel going on this summer. Like I'm literally all over the place. And because of that, we're going to be doing some special battle cries coming up. This week, we have a really special one. I love this because I like your questions the best. So this week, what we're going to have is a mashup of our favorite Ask Mark sections from the battle cries. Sit back, maybe pop a beer, laugh, and enjoy it. And you can always send questions to me by writing to conventionofstates.com/askmark. Erica Eid says, hey, I saw you on Flashpoint talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. What resources would you point to for a Christian who is interested in learning more about it? Erica, look, I would start, and I don't think this is about being a Christian or a non-Christian. By the way, we're talking behind the scenes at Flashpoint about really doing a special series on Bitcoin and crypto. And by the way, separating those things, that's correct. Bitcoin is its own category for a variety of reasons. There are different kinds of cryptocurrencies. But if you want to understand that stuff, go to Grok or go to ChatGPT and say something like this. Put in a query that reads something like, I don't know anything about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Can you give me a primer at an 8th grade level? And I'm not saying that because I think you're an 8th grader, Erica. I just think, personally, for me, I wanted it simplified when I first started. It can be very complex, be super overwhelming. And so just go there and ask that question. Hey, give me a primer on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies generally. You might want to ask it to teach you a little bit about blockchain, because the technology that all these things ride on is called blockchain. And then what I do, this is how I use AI, is there'll be things in there that are interesting or don't make sense. And so you'll say, you can type in the next query and it says, when talking about blockchain, you said X. Can you explain that in more depth to me and even more simply? And just work your way through that. To me, there's no single resource. That to me is the most customized way to learn simply about Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain. Annie says, can you explain in layman terms why it's not a good idea for Senator Hawley to get out stimulus checks and raise the minimum wage? I'm conservative, but I don't understand it. Everybody suffered so much since COVID. I feel like we deserve that stimulus check. Look, Annie, I understand that impulse, and I don't disagree with that impulse. You're right. We've all suffered since COVID, but here's the problem. Giving us stimulus checks is just doing more COVID. It's stimulus. We gave out trillions of dollars of stimulus during COVID. Literally trillions of dollars flowed out, increasing the money supply. Every time the government gives you money, that money is not backed by anything. It's fake money. It's just paper money. Right? So it's printed essentially. You might get it digitally, but it's just money that is created by the central bank, by the Federal Reserve, and they just print that stuff out. They pump it electronically into the system. For every dollar that's pumped into the system that didn't previously exist, the dollar in your pocket is worth less. And that's called inflation, right? Inflation means that your dollar has less buying power. Goods and services are more expensive. Your dollar buys less for every dollar. And for every dollar pumped into the system in stimulus checks, which is what this would be, your dollar is worth less. So the currency inflates, and that means now everything for you is going to be more expensive. So it doesn't really do anything for us. As far as the minimum wage, it's the same thing. There's no such thing as a minimum wage, really, except what the market will bear. Services and labor and goods should be priced at whatever the market will bear. And when we say that the minimum wage is, let's call it $20 an hour, well, what's going to happen is companies can't necessarily afford to pay minimum wage at $20 an hour or $25 an hour, whatever it is. And we see this in markets where states raise the minimum wage even higher. And what you see is now you go into McDonald's or wherever, and they replaced a bunch of the counter people with kiosks. You know what the kiosks get paid? Their minimum wage? $0. And all the young people looking for jobs, people just trying to get on their feet, start out, get a second job that would normally be at a McDonald's at $8 or $9 or $7.50 an hour or whatever it is, earning money, learning workplace skills, getting something on their resume, that first job, they've been replaced by kiosks. And the minimum wage, by the way, now is artificially driving up the cost of everything. Because for the places that keep those people at minimum wage at 20 or 22 or 25 bucks an hour, they don't just eat those costs. They can't. They're not operating on big enough margins. Your restaurant might operate on a 3%, 2% margin. And so what do? They pass that cost on to you. You see surcharges, a minimum wage surcharge on the menu, or you see the prices just go up on their menus. And what that means is now you can't afford to go out to dinner anymore. You can't take your family out anymore. You can't afford to buy groceries because everything is just getting more expensive. If the clerks and the stalkers and everybody's getting a higher minimum wage, that cost is going to be passed on to you. You're going to pay the price. So what it does is it transfers the burden to a broader section of society to pay a smaller section a special stipend. And so it's just not healthy for an economy. I agree with you. Everybody suffered so much. And the way that we'll get out of this is by letting the economy come to a natural equilibrium. That's how you get more prosperity. Stephen Allen says, what's the biggest obstacle preventing COS from reaching the 34 required states? And I would argue it's gutless, weak, pathetic human beings that are quote unquote afraid. I hear this in legislatures all the time. Drives me crazy. Like, oh, what might happen if we have a convention of states? You know what might happen? We might get a balanced budget amendment. We might get our debt and our deficit under control. You know what might happen? We might limit the Supreme Court to 9. That might happen, and we might prevent the leftists from packing the Supreme Court. You know what else might happen? We might be able to give the states the concurrent authority with the federal government to enforce their borders if we ever have another border crisis. I pray to God we don't. I think if Democrats get back in office, we will. We can fix these problems permanently. And they're worried about, runaway convention. And I ask this all the time. Tell me the 38 states that will ratify something you don't like. Nobody can ever tell me that. There's no such thing as a runaway convention. So I'd say the biggest obstacle is fear. That's it. And the people that say these things, like the JBS, the John Bull Society, the people who say those things, they're constitutional denialists. They deny the legitimacy of the United States Constitution. Now, I don't say that lightly. They'll say it to your face. It was illegally adopted in a runaway convention. They don't love the Constitution. They hate the Constitution. They pick and choose. Oh, you can love this part, but you can't love Article 5. Oh, we should revere the founders, except for they ran away. They're constitutional denialists. They hate the framers. They hate the founders, and they hate the United States Constitution. And by the way, most importantly and most disgustingly, people like that, including Eagle Forum, who says the same kind of stuff, and everybody on the left, La Raza, Planned Parenthood, MoveOn.org, Common Cause, Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, they're all in the same camp together. All of those people with Eagle Forum, with the John Birch Society, they're all in the same camp, and they all say the exact same things. They're anti-constitutionalists. They're constitutional deniers. So it's their fear. It's their dishonesty. Like, if it weren't for that, then we'd probably be pretty close to 34 states by now. So those people, I find them disgusting. They're not patriots. They're traitors to the country. And it's really sad for me to say this. On a lot of issues, we would be in agreement on abortion, on property rights, on things like that. But they are constitutional deniers. They deny the legitimacy of the Constitution itself because they say it was illegally adopted. They're ridiculous. That's been proven time and time again, not true. And they deny that we should have Article 5 in the Constitution or that we should use it. So that's the biggest problem. Tracy Grabiak asks, could JBS members or other individuals be sued for telling lies in public about COS action and its leaders? No, they really can't. And they do lie a lot. I mean, it's just a constant stream of garbage and lies that come out of their mouth. So what we generally do is we just try to avoid them. They really, 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 really want to debate us. They're dishonest people. I don't get on a debate stage. We don't get on a debate stage with people who lie. If you do, then you're just playing into their game. And you're willing to stand on stage with people who fabricate stuff, people who repeat the same lies over and over, like 1787 was a runaway convention. They know it's not true. It's been proven definitively to not be true. There's a law review article about it with all the citations. It's about 100 pages. It's incredible. It's definitive. They still say it over and over. So look, we don't get on stage with them. We're not going to sue them. You can't sue them for lying about this stuff. There's a lot of latitude in the sphere of public debate, and you can't really sue people for that kind of stuff. All right, JB says, if it were up to you, Where would you want an Article 5 convention to take place? Oh, you could get me in so much trouble here because I would pick a favorite spot and then everybody else would be mad at me. Here's what I would say. I want it not in Washington, D.C., and I want it in the center of the country somewhere because I want it to be a place where kind of equidistant from all parts of the country, equally easy or difficult for everybody to get to. I'll throw out some cities out there. I'm not saying these cities, but cities like Kansas City, cities like Oklahoma City, cities like Dallas. These are places that are hubs that are easy for people to get to. So those are some places that come to mind offhand. They also have to have sufficient resources. Like you're going to need an arena to hold this. So you need an arena that's big enough. You need hotel space. You need to be able to accommodate the media that will be there, which will be not just local, but national, international. So all of those things come into play. I would say probably needs to be kind of a good convention city.
Well, this is the only nation in the history of the world that stands for the proposition that the people are sovereign.
Stand up and say, no, we won't stand for a despotic government.
The Founding Fathers gave the states this process to use as a check and balance.
But one provision has never been used, and that's our Article 5 convention. And that's really why we're here, to see if that can work.
This simulation is going to, I think, reinforce everything that's good about the Convention of States movement.
Showing how the process would work.
So we can come prepared to a convention and go to work.
We have delegates coming in from all over the country, from 49 of the 50 states.
That shows the states are willing to come together to reunite the United States.
Washington, D.C. is broken in many instances.
Doesn't matter if they drive the machine to the left or drive the machine to the right, the machine is blowing smoke.
It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Independent or Republican, you know there's a problem.
It's the entrenched cabal, if you will, of power in Congress. We've got to break up that power center.
We need term limits.
We've got to protect the people of the nation, the citizens, their liberty.
Taking an axe to the root of the administrative state.
These are folks who understand what's at stake in the country.
People rise above the everyday.
Be a statesman, not a politician.
Discussion was fabulous.
The wisdom of the entire group really showed.
It was thoughtful.
I think they realized the potential.
A nation-shaping, generational changing kind of activity.
Our founders truly were brilliant.
To see that thing that was created by our founding fathers and not yet used, and to actually see it start to bloom a little bit.
We do have the opportunity to unleash economic, environmental, and constitutional renaissance in the United States.
I don't think there's a time that's more important than now.
I think it's time.
I think it's doable. I think we should do it, and I think we can do it.
To get serious.
To start holding the federal legislature accountable.
We can provide real, lasting change and benefit to our nation as a result.
It gives people hope that there is a solution to the massive problems that we're facing.
I consider this the most important work that we can be doing in the United States, where we can actually do something.
I think once you get involved and you start seeing the processes and the people involved, it becomes a no-brainer.
We are simply using the Constitution to save the Republic. This is our time.
Wait and see. It's going to be fun.
All right. First question is from Steve Bruns. I don't feel the government has the constitutional authority to police cities outside of D.C. Am I correct in my thinking? I support Trump, and he's doing a fantastic job, but I question if he's overstepping his authority here. Steve, I think that's true on a general sense, like to police cities, I think if you say it that way, but to protect federal facilities, to protect courthouses, ICE facilities, to facilitate ICE doing their job, absolutely the federal government has the authority to do that. And that's all the president's doing. He's not policing cities generally without the invitation or permission of the mayor and the cities themselves. D.L. Coleman asks, why not request a referendum on the next statewide ballot, asking the voters if they would like to have term limits and a balanced budget, especially in Washington? Well, the answer is because that has no actual effect. In other words, they can request that referendum. We could win that referendum, and then the legislature still does nothing. So it costs literally millions of dollars to run a statewide referendum. So to do that and not get anything out of it in the end, you can't get a resolution for a convention of states out of a referendum. That's why we don't do those. Tracy Grabiak asks, why do we distinguish between the name of COS organizations and the historic term, a convention of the states? And the reason is because they're different things. So our organization's name is Convention of States, and that's something for which we've applied for a trademark and a copyright on that. But the process itself is called a convention of the states. That's a generic term, right? That's dates back to the founding era when Virginia first called for a convention of the states. So that is a different thing than our organization, which is a convention of states. And so it's important we make that distinguishing statement because we want the trademark on our brand name, which is Convention of States. And you can't get it if you're talking about a generic term, which is Convention of States. Karen Crump has a question. It says, not a question, but I appreciate your perspective on Flashpoint. I only wish I could see more of your dogs up close. I don't have a dog, but I love them. So do we have a dog in here? There's Doc back on the couch back there. So hopefully you can see him. You guys have had a chance to watch him grow from a little puppy into a big boy. I think he's about 150 pounds right now. Some of you are probably saying, I don't see anything back there except for a couch with a cowhide print on it. See, he's moving a little bit now. He blends into the couch perfectly. I often tell him if he's not a good boy, he would make a perfect footstool. I'm just kidding. You don't have to turn me into any kind of animal cruelty. I love dogs. Karen, I appreciate your comment on the dogs. It's kind of funny because a lot of times when I'm on TV, the dogs will walk in and poke their face into the shot. I don't mind. You know, maybe it's not professional. Maybe it's not INTV. That's just me. This is my life. I got a couple of big dogs to get in the middle of things. So Karen, my favorites out there. Angel is an incredible activist. Knows everything there is to know about 30 by 30. If you don't know about it, ask Angel. Everything about the federal government and state governments trying to take away our land rights. She is the queen of that. She asks, why can a state override the federal constitution? Can you explain the limits of nullification? Look, the Supreme Court has said nullification, where a state just says no to a federal law, it's not constitutional, according to the Supreme Court. And I have a more practical reason for it. Imagine if every state, just whenever they wanted, just said no to the federal government when they didn't like a federal law. We wouldn't have a federal government. States would just do whatever they want. We would have 50 individual states. We wouldn't have a common defense. States wouldn't have to cooperate in any way. That's just not how our federal system works. Nullification also, I'm not a fan because I think nullification is a system for people who hate their kids. The reason I say that is we can nullify, they can pass the law. We nullify, they pass the law. You get the picture. It's like Groundhog Day, and they have a multi-trillion-dollar industry of people in Washington, D.C. passing laws that we might not like. That's why I'm not a fan of nullification. The federal constitution is supreme to the state constitutions, according to the supremacy clause of the federal constitution. The Supreme Court has said nullification is not a legal defense. And if you read what the framers said about it, they were really saying that Article 5 is the ultimate form of nullification. It really is, because we can change anything we want by calling an Article 5 convention. That's the bar that the framers set for us, and that's what we should be doing. All right, JBS, have you heard of Greater Idaho? That's a movement that will absorb Eastern Oregon into Idaho. Yeah, JB, I've heard about it. I'm in favor of it. There was a movement like that in California where they were trying to break it into two states. I think it was called the state of Jefferson. The problem is the state would have to agree to it, and then the federal government would have to agree to it. And I don't think you're going to get the state of Oregon to agree to split that part of the state off. Why should they? They don't have to listen to that part of the state. It has a much lower population base. They can pillage it of resources. They can pillage it with taxes. They don't really have to care what that part of the state thinks. It's not in their best interest as evil despots to let that part of the state go. And I don't think that Washington, D.C. would do it either generally because, the Democrats certainly aren't going to vote for it. They're not going to want another conservative state. So I just don't think that's a practical approach, but I love it. I love it because the narrative's right. God bless you if you can get it done. I'm totally into it. I would say keep going and keep doing it. I have another question here from somebody anonymous. When did you know you wanted to own Great Danes? I think when it was time to get my first dog on my own, and Patty and I were serious and we were engaged and we're getting ready to get married. And I've always been attracted to large animals, large trucks. I had an F-350 dually that was lifted. I like big things. Maybe that's why I live in Texas now. And I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I like big stuff. Who knows? People might say I'm compensating, right? You can make that joke. It's okay. But on our honeymoon, Patty and I decided to get Great Danes. We picked up our first pair of Great Danes literally on the way from the honeymoon. I said to Patty, hey, I want to either have kids or dogs right away. And she said dogs. So I lost that fight. We had dogs before we had kids, and we had two Great Danes. We've now always had at least one Great Dane in the house, generally two Great Danes in the house. Right now we have three Great Danes in the house, as you saw. But our first two Great Danes were Kenya and Joe. We owned a coffee house at the time. Kenya AA was a kind of coffee. Joe, his full name was Cup of Joe. So that's as long as I've had my own dogs. I grew up with labs, but as long as I've had my own dogs, I've had Great Danes. Favorite book of the Hebrew scriptures or the Old Testament, and why? Man, I would say that my favorite book would have to be Exodus. And the reason I would say it is because it is the story of exile and return. And I think this is a meta theme throughout the entire Bible, throughout the Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament. The story of exile and return, exile and redemption, right? Of the prodigal son going away and coming back. I think this theme repeats itself throughout the Bible. And also, if you want to understand the story of the Jewish people, and I am Jewish by birth, both sides of my family, I think Exodus really encapsulates the story of the Jewish people. I think one of my favorite takeaways from Exodus, and one of the things I try to remember myself is, if you know the story of Exodus, God's done all of these incredible miracles for the Jewish people, right? Ultimately freeing them from Pharaoh. And so they're freed from Pharaoh. They're all this gold and silver is given to them before they leave. They leave. And of course, Pharaoh tells his army to go after them. The Red Sea is parted for them. They cross the Red Sea. It closes on Pharaoh's army. So they're safe on the other side of the Red Sea. I mean, just absolute amazing, epic miracles. God delivers manna to them so they have plenty to eat. And pretty soon they're complaining to God. Like, oh, well, it's terrible. They're complaining to Moses about God. We want meat, and we were better off when we were back there, and we had water. And the reason that story matters to me is it's just indicative of the fallen nature of man and our ingratitude. I guarantee you, if you're a believer and you pay attention, you have had miracles in your life, and you have noticed them. I've never met a believer who has really given their life to Jesus Christ that has not experienced miracles, has not actually seen unexplainable, real miracles in their life. And I think that we have a tendency, just like the Hebrews, just like the Israelites, to be like, yeah, well, but what have you done lately for me, God? Things are pretty rough right now. I mean, there was that miracle thing, way back when. You saved me in that accident, cured me of cancer. You got me a job when I was broke, whatever it was, where God intervened in your life. And then we forget about that and we lose our gratitude, and we kind of look at God as the vending machine. It's like, well, I'm putting my quarter in, I'm praying. Why aren't you giving me what I want, my candy bar out of the machine? And so I think for me, reading Exodus and seeing the ingratitude of many of the Jews after having experienced these miracles reminds me to be grateful for all the miracles in my life. And I got a lot of them. I'm married to the best woman in the world. I got the best kids in the world. I got the best granddaughter in the world. I think I have the best dogs in the world. I live in a beautiful place. I love my house. I love the property. I love my state. I love my country. I have enough food to eat. I have a job that pays my bills. I mean, I'm healthy. It's hard to be more blessed than we are. And so Exodus reminds me that even when I go through the Exodus, even when difficult things happen, that I need to be grateful for everything that God has given me. And frankly, even grateful for the trials and tribulations. Favorite kind of barbecue sauce. There's a lot of controversy here. I know I could get into, Detroit barbecue, Kansas City barbecue, Texas barbecue, Carolina barbecue. I'm going to say the most controversial thing of all. I love all of them equally. I know it's not a cop-out, though. I'm not cop-out. This is absolute truth. I love barbecue. When I travel, if I'm traveling by myself and I don't have dinner with Grassroots, I go to a barbecue joint. And I'm not talking about a chain barbecue joint. I'm not looking for Texas Roadhouse or something like that. I'm looking for a true blue, local, down home, where the regular folks eat off of tin trays and wax paper barbecue joint. And I go, you do whatever is the best local barbecue. And so I love it. I love a vinegar-based barbecue sauce. I love a hot barbecue sauce. I love a sweet barbecue sauce. I love barbecue. I just can't help myself. Anybody, if I'm anywhere and you say, hey, we're going to take you out for barbecue, I promise you're going to get a smile on my face and a growl from my tummy. All right, if I could time travel once, would I go to the past or the future, and where exactly? Man, this one is really hard for me. I have a super vivid imagination. I love history. I love history books. I'm super interested, man, to sit down, maybe with Madison, Adams, Jefferson, maybe be in the Constitutional Convention. Whew, that would be amazing. At the same time, I would love to travel 100 years, 500 years into the future and see what's going to happen. I'd love to be able to trace my own family and see what happens. I pray that it's all okay. You never know. I pray that we don't have Armageddon between here and then, that war to end all wars. Maybe we have end times by then. And if I went 500 years into the future, maybe I'd find the Lord's kingdom, right? The new kingdom. I don't know. I'm going to cop out and say, I don't know. I can't answer that question. If I was a wrestler, what would my entrance theme song be? Oh my God. This is producer G. This is a producer G question. What would my entrance theme song be if I was a wrestler? I'm going to say it would probably have to be a Zeppelin song. I'm a huge Zeppelin fan. I love almost the entire Zeppelin catalog. And I would probably choose, I'm going to say, it's kind of like an off one, but I would choose When the Levee Breaks. And I would do that because if you're a wrestler, I'm going to break the levee. You're going to have no place to go, baby. That's what I'm saying, if you know the lyrics to that song. Gee, these are tough. If I could teach a class on one niche topic you love, what would it be? Oh, my niche topic would be how to be a mentor. I love mentoring. It's one of the most satisfying things I do. I don't feel like anybody ever taught me how to be a mentor. I've been blessed primarily as an adult, not so much when I was younger, but blessed to have some really great mentors as an adult. And I think mentoring is just this incredible process of doing your best to transfer wisdom from one human brain to another, one human heart to another, sometimes one generation to another. I think it's a really important thing. I don't think enough of it is done in the world. I have an intern right now that's what she asked me to teach her, was how to be a mentor. And I'm passionate about mentoring. So I think it would be how to be a good mentor. Be honest. How many tabs do you have open right now? Okay. I'm just going to tell you, you caught me at a time that's not as embarrassing as usual. I have 3 monitors. I normally have 3 browsers open on 3 monitors and they're all full. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I have 2 messaging apps. I have a password app. I have a VPN, actually 3 messaging apps open. So I don't know. Is that embarrassing? Is that too many? I don't feel like I have too many up. It's not as much as I normally have up. Those are great questions, G. I love your really hard questions. By the way, if you want to put in hard questions, crazy questions, personal questions, you can see I will answer all of them. I may fail in my answer, maybe a pathetic answer, but I will answer all of them. You can do that at conventionofstates.com/ask. Mark, don't forget, get involved in the 2026 midterms. Finding candidates, walking for candidates, whatever you got to do, get involved right now. Go to conventionofstates.com and fill out the petition, click on the Take Action tab, and then go ahead and just be an activist. That's all I want you to do. Just go out there and be active. I love you guys. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the BattleCry.